So good news, I got another iPad to replace the one that I broke. So we should be able to do this and see a little better than the past couple ones in Unit 4. So let's begin. We're on Unit 4, which is using partial products to multiply two-digit numbers. So we have this problem right here from our visual learning. It says, in the example on the previous page, why did you find 2 times 10 rather than 2 times 1? And if you remember the problem on the previous page or in your visual learning, it was 15. Let me get that going. It was 15 times 12. So it's asking, why did we find 2 times 10 instead of just doing 2 times 1? And the reason why is that 1 is in the tens place value. So the 1 in the factor 15 is what? It's in the tens place. So what does that mean? It means it's 110 instead of 1. All right, number 2 now. In the example on the previous page, could you record the 4 partial products in a different order? So if you remember from 15 times 12, they had the partial products listed this way. And they had listed first as 10, then 20, then 50, then 100. So they're asking, could we organize that in a different way? Could we put these ones in a different order? Well, what do you think? If you said the answer is yes, you are correct. As long as we have all of these partial products, remember our commutative property of addition says that you can add them in any order. So since we have that explained, this is what I'm going to be writing out. As long as you include all, so it should be 4 partial products because there's 4 place values altogether. The commutative, and I always have a problem spelling this word, so I have to sound out, commutative property of addition says that you can add numbers in any order. So we could have, if we wanted, we could have done something like this instead. We could have done our tens place values first. So 10 times 10 is 100. 10 times 5 is 50. 2 times 10 is 20. 2 times 5 is 10. We could have written it that way as well. The way that we did it first, though, on the other page is just the way that most people organize their partial products, by starting with the ones place value and then moving to the tens. All right, so we have these boxes to fill in, and it says fill in all the partial products and then add to find the final product. Draw area models as needed. Well, I think we're good without those area models because we've been practicing them, and it's all been building up on this partial products. So I don't think we'll be needing those today. So let's begin. Our first one is 4 times 1. So 4 times that 1 place value up top. So that is 4 times 3, which is 12. Next, we move to the next place value, 4 times 2. But it's not just 2, remember, it's 20, which is 80. This next one, before I even do anything, I notice I'm in that tens place value, so I could just put a 0 down here, slide over to the tens place value to begin with. So now I have 1 times 3, which is 3. But it was actually, remember, 10 times 3, which is 30, which is why we add that 0 to begin with. And now our last one, 1 times 2. Well, remember, it's not just 1 times 2. This 1 is in its tens place value, and this 2 is in that tens place value. So I'm adding 2 zeros because it's actually 10 times 20. Now, what do we get when we do 1 times 2, though? We get 2. So now we add all these guys up. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 3 is 2. Regroup that one, and our answer is 322. Heading on to our next one now. 5 times 1 is 5. And then we have this 4 is in the tens place value. So I'm going to add a 0 there. And now I can do 5 times 4, which is 20. So I write that 20 down. My next one. This 2 is in the tens place value, so I put a 0 here to move it to tens place value. And then we slide it over, and we do 2 times 1, which is 20. Our next one, this 2 is actually a 20, and this 4 is actually a 40. So that's in the tens place value, and there's 2 numbers in the tens place value, so I add 2 zeros down. And now I do 2 times 4, which is 8. So now I'm good to add them all up. 5, 2, and 10, and we get 1,025. Okay, we're going to head to problem number 5 now, and we're doing the same thing. We're just finding all of our partial products. So remember, we always start with our ones place value. 1 times the other one's place value is 4. Then we move to the next place value, which notice again, since the 3 is in the tens place value, I can add a 0 here. 1 times 3 now is 3. Now I'm going to go to my next one. Notice again how this 5 is in the tens place value. So I add a 0 so I can start on the tens. And then I do 5 times 4, which is 20. Now our last one, notice this 5 is in the tens place value. And the 3 is also in the tens place value. So since I have 2 numbers in that tens place value, I add 2 zeros. And now I can do 5 times 3 is 15. Now I can add them up. And what do I get? I get 1,734. Problem number 6. 1 times 3 is 3. That 7 is in the tens place value, so I put a 0 down. And now I multiply 1 times 7 is 7. My next one, that 8 is in the tens place value. So I add a 0, and then I do 8 times 3 is 24. And our last one, the 8 times 7, I notice there's 2 place values because there's 2 numbers in the tens. And then I could do 8 times 7 is 56. So now I add them up, and I get 5,913. Now, I want you to notice something before we go to the next part. Notice I have 1, 2, 1, 2 zeros always. And then this last row always has 2 zeros right there. So I have this pattern that I can also fill out to begin with of 0, 0, 0, 0. And then I could just worry about my basic math facts. So that's also another option that you can do as well. Okay, let's continue now. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 60. Well, 60 has a 0 because it's in the tens place value. So now I can do 2 times 6, which is 12. Our next one is 30 times 4. But notice that 30 is in the tens place value, so I put the 0 down. So then my basic math fact is 3 times 4, which is 12. And lastly, we have 30 times 60. Well, 30 has a 0 because it's in the tens place value. 60 has a 0 because it's in the tens place value. So now I just have my basic math fact of 3 times 6, which is 18. We can add them up. And what do we get? We get 2,048. Our last one for this row. 3 times 6 is 18. Then I go to my next place value, 3 times 20. Well, 20 is in the tens place value, so I put a 0 down. So now my basic math fact is 3 times 2, which is 6. My next one, 5 times 6. Well, remember, it's not just 5, it's actually 50. So I put a 0 down, and now I have 5 times 6, which is 30. And our last one, we have 50 times 20. 50 has a 0. 20 has a 0. So now my basic math fact is 5 times 2, which is 10. Add them up, and I get 1,378. Now this row, the only thing that's different is it doesn't have those boxes for me, but it's still going to follow that same format. So I'm still going to do my ones place value, 1 times ones, which is 7 times 8, which is 56. And now I go to the next one. I do 7 times 30. Well, 30 is in the tens place value, so I add a 3. Then I have 7 times 3, which is 21. My next one is 1 times 8. But remember, it's not just 1, it's 10 times 8. So I put that 0 down because it's in the tens place value. And then I do 1 times 8, which is 80. And my last one, I do 10 times 30. 10 has a 0, 30 has a 0. So now I have 1 times 3, which is 3. Add up my partial products. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 8 is 14. Regroup. My answer is 646. Heading over to problem 10 now. Again, I start my ones place value. 1s times 1s, which is 3 times 4, is 12. My next place value I go to is 3 times 20. 20 has a 0, so I add that 0. Then I have 3 times 2, which is 6. My next one, 30 times 4. Well, I add a 0 for 30, and I left my basic math fact of 3 times 4 is 12. My final one is 30 times 20, which is 30 with a 0 and 20 with a 0. And now my basic math fact is 3 times 2 for 6. Add them up, add up all these partial products, and I get 792. My next one, number 11. 3 times 9. Whoa, it jumped there. 3 times 9 is 27. Now I go to 3 times 10. I add that 0 since it's in the tens place value. My basic math fact is 3 times 1 is 3. Going to my next one, 40 times 9. We'll add that 0 from 40. And then 4 times 9 for my basic math fact is 36. My last one is 40 times 10. So I add the 0 from 40. I add the 0 from 10. And I have 4 times 1 is 4. Add these up. And I get 817. Our last one on this page, and then congratulations, we finished this page, is our ones place value times our ones place value, which is 2 times 9, which is 18. Then I have 2 times 10. I add that 0 since it's in the tens place value. 2 times 1 is 2. Going to our next one, 50 times 9. I add that 0 from 50. Then I have my basic math fact of 5 times 9, which is 45. My final one is 50 times 10. So I add a 0 and a 0, and then 5 times 1 is 5. Add them up, and I get 988. Good job, guys. Let's go to our next page now. Number 13. The Castillo de San Marcos is a Spanish fortress that was built between 1672. So let's highlight that. And 1695. Rounded to the nearest 10,000, how many pesos did it cost to build the fortress? So those are my only numbers I see right here, and those don't seem to help me. So there must be something else in another spot. And if I look at my picture, I see right here, oh, there is. So let's see what we have here. We have 138,375. And it's saying rounded to the nearest 10,000. So remember, how we round is we go to our place, we find our place, which is the 10,000s, we go next door. If it is 5 or more, then we add 1 more. If it is 4 or less, we let it rest. So what do I see? Well, next door is an 8, so that means it's more than 5, so I add 1 more. So that 3 is going to become a 4. And then the next part of my saying is I look to the right, put zeros in sight. So everything else becomes a 0. Now, question B is going to use actually that information we highlighted in yellow, from up above. Because now it's asking how long did it take to build that fortress. Well, we have 1695, and we're going to subtract 1672. So what do we get when we subtract these? Well, look, it gave us a pretty easy subtraction, no regrouping even. So it took us 23 years to build this fortress. Number 14. A school has 2 large patios. One is rectangular and is 24 feet long and 18 feet wide. So I'm just going to draw a picture of that for us so we can see what's going on. 24 feet long, 18 feet wide. The other is square, and each side is 21 feet. So since it's a square, that means every single side is 21 feet. Now, what is this side? Well, this is also going to be 18 for that original. And this side is 24, because remember, in a rectangle, the opposite sides are the same. So now what's our question? Which patio has a greater area? Well, if we remember, because we've been working on these since 3rd grade, area for our area model is length times width. So we have to figure out what 24 times 18 is, and then we have to figure out what 21 times 21 is. So let's do 24 times 18. 4 times 8 is 32. Then we have 8 times 20. I add that 0 since it's 20. And then my basic math fact is 8 times 2 is 16. My next one, 4 times 10, I add that 0. 4 times 1 is 4. And my last one, 10 times 20. Well, that is 2 zeros from the 10 and the 20. And then my basic math fact is 1 times 2. So I add them up, and what do I get? 432 square feet. So now what do I have for my other one? Well, we have 21 times 21. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 20 is 20. 2 times 1 isn't just 2 times 1 because it's 20 times 1. So that's going to be 20. And then 20 times 20 is 400. Notice how I did not use the colors for that one because they're easy numbers to work with. So I didn't need to remember which ones I've multiplied. Remember, whenever we're multiplying 2 digits by 2 digits, we should always have 4 partial products. So what do we have for our square? Its area is 441. So which one has a bigger area? Our bigger area is the square. And how do we know that? Well, we're going to put the square, the square patio has a larger area. And hold on a sec, my pen tip just fell out. Has a larger area. And it's not going back in, so we may be finishing this by hand. Let me give one more try. The square patio has a larger area because, there we go. Has a larger area because 441 is greater than 432. There, our pen's working much nicer now. Number 15, explain how you can use the area model below to find 14 times 22. List the partial products and solve. So what I'm going to do first is I separate each factor into tens and ones. So I separate each factor, which is each number I'm multiplying. And then what do? After I break 14 up into 10 plus 4 and 22 into 20 plus 2, what do I do next? So now I find the partial product of each part of the area model. So next, I find the partial product of each area model. And then what do I do after I do that? Well, let's find the area of each of those and then see if we remember what we do. 10 times 20 is 200. 2 times 10 is 20. 20 times 4 is 80. And our last one is 2 times 4, which is 8. Do you remember what we do now? Yeah, that's right. We add the partial products next. And then what's our final part for this? Well, it says we need to solve. So 200 plus 80 plus 20 plus 8. Well, what does that equal? That equals 308. We're almost to the end, guys. You're doing great. So our next one says select all the partial products needed to find the final product. So let's see. Our first one should always be our ones times our ones. So what is 3 times 2? Well, that is 6. But notice, it actually doesn't want me to write it in there. It says select all. So I need to make sure 6 is one of these choices, which I see right here. So now we need one more choice. Well, let's see what they did next. They did 2 times 10, which is 20, which they have. So next should be 6 times 3, which is 18. But do you notice the problem? They put 18 here to trick us. It's actually not 18. Remember, this 6 is in the tens place value, so I have to add that 0. So now, our real answer has arrived. So those are the two that we should have checked. Let's see if number 17 follows that same structure, that same pattern. So notice there's 3 boxes, so I'll need to pick 3 answers. So what do we do first? Well, we have 4 times 9 is 36. Do I see that choice anywhere? I do. So that must be one of my partial products. My next one would be 4 times 10, which is 40, which they did. My next one would be 2 times 9 is 18. Oh, look, there's not 18 there, so there must be a mistake. Remember, this 2 is in the tens place value. So I'm going to put a 0 here because it's in that tens place value. And then suddenly, my correct answer has appeared. Our last one is 2 times 1, which is 2. But notice, I don't see that anywhere on the side, so there must be something wrong about it. That's right. Remember, this is a 2 from the 20. It's not just 2, it's 20, so I need to add the 0. And this 1 that we multiply it by isn't just a 1, it's a 10, so I need to add another 0 there. So now I notice there's 200. All right, so that is how we solve using partial products.